Brian, if we just start by getting your thoughts on, I suppose, the debate this week about the structure of Super League going forward. Would you be open to the prospect of a restructuring in the future, or is this not a conversation that you think maybe we should be having at this point?
What about restructuring the promotion relegation? Yeah. I don't think there's an easy answer to it. I don't think. I think it generated interest. The Middle Eight formats and the Super 8 formats. It certainly generated interest, but at the same time, it's. I understand those who were certainly in the bottom four in the Middle Eight. Understand that it would be hard to plan. It is hard to plan. It's hard to gauge where you're going to be for next season, and there's so many knock-on effects to that. So it's just one of those topics. I think that there's no black and white answer to it. There's some merit in every one, and you're probably going to work out. You're probably going to work out when all things are considered, which format causes least damage, if that sounds right, or which format has less dynamics involved. And it's at that point when most coaches and fans and journalists need to step aside because they don't know enough. Nobody knows enough about how many bums are on seats and what the TV deal is and who's watching, how many viewers are watching and all those type of things. Because that's what these decisions get made on the money part of it, the financial part of it, and the growth of the game and all those type of things. Whether it's nice or not, or whether it's nerve-wracking or not, that's not a reason to change or not change it.
That's an interesting way of looking at it, I suppose, because from the outside and the spectators, you might look at the amount of jeopardy that is created by having the Super 8s, or maybe the fact that a one-up, one-down would feel like a bit of a closed shop, but I suppose the Super League has to be run like a business, and if that's what's best for the money, keeping the strength of the game as best it can, then sometimes the emotion's got to be taken out of that.
Well, Super League does need to be run like a business. I don't think I don't think anybody will argue against it. They can't argue against that. It's a product. Rugby League's a product, and you've got to market that product and sell the product as best you can. What we've also got running alongside our sport, which is different to most sports, is that we need to nail it internationally as well. And some of what we do for the product through the year sometimes hinders what we do at the end of the year, in my opinion, which is the number of games and the amount of the gene pool that we choose from will always be challenging for us at the end of the year. But then more games equals more bums and seats, more TV coverage. So it's not a black and white answer. When Salford beat OKR in the Middle Eight in that £1 million game a couple of years ago, which sent OKR down, I can't remember any sporting event which had as much drama, had an ending to it, as that. So you can't say it didn't work. It absolutely worked, and if part of the criteria of the Middle Eights or the Super Eights was to keep interest going for those who haven't got a potential of winning the grand final, if part of the criteria was to keep interest going, well, it certainly achieved that. And again, that the way just rugby league as a sport, the way that there was 90 seconds left on the clock, I think 80 seconds were left on the clock when I sent Jimmy Peacock a text saying congratulations, you're through. And then they went and scored 2 tries, and it was jaw-dropping. So anybody who wasn't involved in rugby league who just watched that game and thought, wow, they can't have not been impressed with it. But is that good for Salford and OKR? I understand they would say no, it wasn't, and I get that as well.
I suppose, especially coming from the position you are this season with the amount of injuries that you've had, do you think enough people inside the game are as progressive to take that sort of macro view and say, yes, it is really hard, the amount of games we play, the work that goes into that, the things that we have to deal with, but for the greater good of the sport, this is what needs to happen? Do you think there's enough people who sort of are able to have that step back and that viewpoint?
I don't know. Listen, I don't read enough of the media to give you a comment on what people are saying at the moment. I do know that a lot of people have opinions, and they're ill-informed opinions. And again, I'll say that decisions like whether you go, what format we take in playoffs, and whether we have an Easter weekend or whether we have the Magic weekend is usually based on bums on seats, TV deals, numbers watching the sport, growth of the sport. It's not based on what looks nice. One up, one down hasn't been a problem for Premiership football, has it? Or the first past the post winning, it hasn't been a problem for them. I know it's a different dynamic and a different sport, but it's a format that works. So, but equally, I thought top 5 playoffs were really good as well. When we used to have top 5 playoffs, I thought that was a really good system. I liked that. I didn't mind top 8s. The middle 8s and super 8s has its merits. So whatever decision gets made, it can't be because of what's nice. Can't be. It's got to be for the good of the sport. The sport's a product, and I think that everybody needs to bear that in mind.
Back to the shorter term, the present, injury-wise for you this week, and I suppose returning from suspensions as well. A few back in the group, a few who suffered injuries last week. Where do you see the strength of the squad being this week ahead of St Helens?
Yeah, we're having a tough run, both with injuries and some confidence. I thought our game against Huddersfield was incredibly frustrating last week, but at the same time really courageous. And you know, I've been involved with the team here that in similar situations with as many bodies down and continuing to incur injuries through the game, that the game would get away from us, and it didn't. You know, we showed some steel there. So you know, it's a tough situation at the moment, and we just got to bite down, hold your nerve, keep hold, and you know, it will come good.
So confidence, I mean, is that inevitable given the run that you've been on with injuries, that some people might start to struggle when they've got so many different bodies around them, and the run that you're on has just been so tough?
Well, it's not so much confidence in what we can and can't do, it's confidence in, well, who's going to go down this week. And you know, you look around the dressing rooms and there's that many people walking around wounded, it starts to affect you. You know, a positive outlook sounds really simple, when it sounds like you should have that, and we're all maintaining that. But it's a conscious effort at the moment. It doesn't happen subconsciously. It's a conscious effort for us to say, look, we're all right, we're cool. And a lot of what we're doing, bizarrely, a lot of what we're doing is okay. There's too much stuff not right. I get that as well. But then there's no rocket science in that. That's to do with people missing and people filling in other roles. And the amount of times I've been able to name the first 10 players in my team, never mind 13, who are consistently in the same position week in, week out. I don't think I've done it all year. So we're up for a challenge tomorrow night against Saints. We're all looking forward to it. We get to a stage every week where we know we can beat the opposition, and that's never straight after the game. When we got beat by Huddersfield, a process starts then where you bring them in on Saturday morning, you go through some sort of review, you go through further review over the weekend on a Monday or Tuesday, and it's just a gradual process where you start building it and piecing it back together. And so you get to a stage the day before where you think, yeah, we're going to beat Saints. And we genuinely believe we're going to beat Saints. We also know it's going to be a task. We also know they're in great form and got very little injuries. And if we do beat Saints, we'll have to come up with something special. We understand that. But we know we can beat Saints. And there's a process to go through that every week. And while we go through that process, you've got to keep positive. You've got to keep focusing on the things that are working for us and things that we're doing well.
What has to go right for you? What is the special thing that needs to happen for you to beat Saints?
I don't know about special thing, but I think a few things need to happen. I think we need to have a great kicking game. Certainly our try line D. I think they're pretty potent, Saints, all over the field, but attacking your try line, they'll all come up with something. So I think there's just a few facets of the game which we need to be good at. I don't think anything needs to be special or fantastic. Or for us to beat Saints, a lot of those facets need to fall in place, and there's a challenge. And that's why, you know, when you've got some young fellas playing in the team and some blokes who have got less than 20 or 30 games experience, those simple facets are a challenge for them. You know, if you have enough of those in your team, then it becomes a challenge on itself, you know, to perform. So therein lies the word experience, and we've got a few blokes who are gaining more experience, and it's great that they are, but at times it can cost you.
You touched upon it, but from your view, what is it that has made Saints so successful this season? What's giving them the run they've been on? Do
you know, I don't want this. They might see this as a bit of a chip at them. I don't mean it to be. I don't think they're brilliant at anything yet, but I think they're just across the board. They've probably scored an 8 and 9 out of 10 in most categories: kick, chase, goal line D, yardage attack, good ball attack. And I don't think you look at Saints and go, wow, look at what they're doing there beyond everybody else. But it's hard to find an error in what they're doing. It's hard to find a real poor moment in what they're doing. And then on top of that, throw in a splash of some brilliance, you know, with a Roby. Wilkins in great form. their pack's in great form, and Ben Barber, then you've got a team that's, you know, genuine contenders.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Brian, just on the restructuring, you've tasted obviously Super League success, and then you've been in the qualifiers yourself. So in terms of the overall system at the moment, there'll be few people more experienced in that than yourself. Going to some of those smaller clubs when you were in the qualifiers, did you see the difference that a Super League team visiting some of the smaller clubs in the Championship made to some of those teams? Can you understand why perhaps clubs like Batley won't be too enamoured with the potential for just a one-up, one-down system?
Yeah, I get that. I absolutely get that. And in my time at London, I really do appreciate that the sport tickles along servicing itself. You know, there's a feeling that all Super League clubs are just servicing themselves, and you know, we didn't get any help at London. No RFL help, no funding, no extra funding. That was all a myth. David Hughes paid for it all. I think some things have changed recently in recent years, but not to a massive degree. But back then, no extra funding. Recruitment was hard. So I get how, you know, you can almost look from outside. I felt like I was looking out sometimes at what the sport was doing. I can really appreciate how a Batley, a Featherstone and a Lee would get a bit frustrated if it feels like it's a bit of a closed shop. I can get that, but I can also absolutely get how owners of clubs, of Super League clubs, who invest hundreds of thousands of pounds, in some cases millions. David Hughes has invested millions. Eamon McManus at Saints has invested millions. How they want their product, their club, to be in the best shape possible, and people come to watch Super League. People come to watch Super League. The crowds come through the gates. The people watch TV to watch Super League. That's not to say there's no interest in Championship. There probably is, but nobody's paying the money. Not many are paying money to go watch the Championship. A lot of it's in Super League, so there's no black and white answer. I'm getting splinters on my backside set on this fence, aren't I?
You're right. There is no easy answer. And in terms of yourself, who's been involved in grassroots rugby league, what we hear constantly is they're wanting rugby league to grow, not just in this country, not just across the country, outside of the north, but globally as well. So I would imagine it's quite a difficult balance, isn't it? Because you want to encourage growth. The way to that is to filter as much success down to the lower leagues as possible, but you also want a strong end product. So for yourself, it must be sort of difficult. You understand that difficult balance.
This is from an uneducated point of view. I don't know enough about it. I don't know the data enough. But when Super League makes cuts of players, ideally I thought they would go to Championship clubs. I think that happened anyway. I know now Championship clubs have got a lot more ability to spend a lot more money on their squads. But my understanding was, and I thought that when we made a cut of a 18, 19, 20-year-old kid who wasn't going to make the grade with us, that he would go play Championship. I know straight away some people would say, no, he used to go out the game and fall out of love with the game. I don't know. Flippantly, I'd say I think that's more to do with the kid than the sport. So I think having the strongest Super League possible, where it's rubbing shoulders, you know, rubbing shoulders on all sorts of numbers, TV deals and numbers watching it through TV, numbers watching it through the gates. I think for Super League to be as strong as it can be, I think that'd work. And how I know how that would filter down. I think that would filter down. I don't think that it's just a case that would get strong and everybody else would suffer. I think there's going to be some natural, you know, filtering down. You know, for example, as I've already said, when players don't make the cut, then they go play at a lower level, which, you know, I could sit here and talk to you 10 minutes and not take a breath about how many players have left Leeds and not made the cut and then have gone on and played not just at Championship clubs but other Super League clubs as well.
Looking at it from the outside, when this was announced, Gary Hetherington obviously had some strong words to say on it, and it seems strange not to see Leeds represented there when you had the traditional powerhouses of the league. Some people within the game, supporters, were saying it's a sign of a new kind of power authority within the game with those few clubs. I wondered if you had any views about Leeds, whether it's down to personal opinion of Gary Hetherington not being represented or whether being left out of, seemingly left out of those big decisions.
I don't know what you're trying to say. What are you trying to say there?
That it seems strange that Leeds weren't represented there in that top table, and you had the other traditional powerhouses. I wondered if you had a view on that.
I don't know that they weren't represented. Leeds were obviously represented there. I think it's at this stage where I'd say that's the answer to that is well out my pay bracket. I've not ran those tables, and I don't know what goes on around those tables. And you know, there's meetings take place where all sorts gets discussed. I'm not involved in those meetings. No comment.
Excellent. Squad-wise, Harry Newman is involved. What's his progression and growth been like? How impressed have you been with him? You must have confidence in him during this difficult spell to bring him into the squad.
Well, he's had a good run at Featherstone. Our dual-red relationship with Featherstone continues to work for both us and Featherstone. And he's had a great run of games there, and gets called into the squad. There's still some doubts. We just had a team run there, our final run of the week, and there's still some doubts over some players. This is the crazy situation which we're in, which we sometimes find ourselves in. We don't often want to find ourselves in it, but we sometimes find ourselves in where we can't confirm a team until 90 minutes before kick-off. So Ash Golding is going to have a late fitness check on an ankle that he rolled through the week, and Jordan Lilly, who's got a foot problem, which we're going to have to, which he's had for a couple of years. Jordan, that inflamed last week. We're going to find out whether he's fit 90 minutes before kick-off. So we've got a group of blokes there who have trained, who know what they're doing, know what they want to do, and are really keen. We can't confirm that full 17 until tomorrow night. For Harry Newman, he gets a chance of playing. He has a chance of starting tomorrow, or at least coming off the bench. So it's exciting times for him, and he's well deserved. And his time at Featherstone has been good. Been playing centre at Featherstone, been turning it up in some games.
You beat them earlier this season when you were having some injury problems off the back of being in Australia. Do you think that could play a part in terms of mentality, showing the players, look, it can be done, it's at home, we still have a real chance?
Well, that's one of the things that I've been trying to get across in most press conferences, that we're all right. We're all right. Not on the field, I'm not talking about that. We went away to Warrington and beat them, went away to Saints and beat them, beat Hull at home. Had a really good run of form, and then incurred a load of injuries. And there's your answer. Now, should we have been better? Could we have been better? Yeah, but my reaction has got to be accurate. To wins and losses, and we cover off what we need to cover off, and at the same time, I'm keeping it real as well. I'm keeping the blokes alive. I'm not crushing them. I'm not telling them that they're miles off, because I know they're not. Give me a more regular 13 and a more regular 17, and we'll start scaring other teams.
Is an important message for you that within the squad, players that are fit, you've still got treble winners and grand final winners, and players with lots of experience still? Yeah,
that's good, and nobody talks about that, by the way, behind closed doors. We don't comfort ourselves saying, "Oh, look at what we did last year." You always start and assume a mentality that you've not won a thing, and at the start of every year we're chasing the trophy just like everybody else. So, but again, when I'm in my office on my own and I'm thinking, what do we need to do? I do know that we've got some blokes in there with experience that they are saying the right things and doing the right things. They're maintaining a bit of composure as well.
Thank you, good luck.
Cheers.
Just on the injury front, Brian, is there an update on Mikola Ledsky and Richie Myler out of last week's game?
Yeah, Richie is going through his protocol return to play because he got knocked out against Castleford, I think it was, Magic Weekend. He's had 2 concussions in a short space of time, so he's got to go through a bit more of a rigorous test. Mikola, who I've got to be careful to use some in-house humour. He was in a bad way, wasn't he, on the field? But he's come out of it and got some damage to his neck and his shoulders, and it's been stiff. And I think the precautions that the medical people took on the field was absolutely the right thing. But he's come out of it okay. He's good and was all right Saturday afternoon, but they kept him in for a while. And I don't think he'll be right for Catalans on Wednesday, but we're going to push for both. both Richie and Mick to be right, but we're not going to find out whether they can run and they're pain free, and certainly with Richie we're not going to find out whether he's available until he's finished his return to play protocol.
And you'll be missing Ryan Hall, of course. He'll be away with the England team in America. Having been involved in American Rugby League, how big could this game be for the sport over in the States?
Yeah, for sure. I think to take a flagship game and let them see it, it's absolutely. You know, we've just been talking about the dynamics of the game, then some of the infrastructure of the game. You know, a strong product played at the top end, which only ever caters for, you know, the best of the best. That's what the internationals is about, isn't it? The best of the best, and for our game to be over in America, you know, to show our wares is great.
Presumably, because of the injuries you've got, you're not able to pick and choose short turnaround for that Wednesday game, so a rare midweek game. We don't have that many of them these days. Have you had to have one eye on that, or are you just not afforded that luxury?
We've got one eye on it, but in terms of rolling blokes about and rotating fellas, I haven't had that luxury all year. I didn't even have that luxury over Easter. So, you know, it will be a case of strapping each other up and going again. It's not quite an Easter, we've got a couple more days extra than Easter, but it's still a very short turnaround. I've often said in this room here, when we play on a Friday, not many train on Monday. They all do something. They all do something physically, but there's not many go out on the field and run. Certainly don't run into each other on Monday. And it used to be, you know, I remember being here as an assistant coach, and we used to train on a Monday, and there used to be a massive beat-up session on a Monday after a Friday game. And I think maybe that's to do with just the speed of the game and some of the combat and some of that wrestling that goes on the field nowadays. You know, blokes' bodies are twisted and hurting and bruised more than ever. So if we can't train Monday yet, we've got to play Wednesday. It's going to be a tough ask.